Welcome to the Michigan Golfer Show. Join us each week as we explore the people, the places, and the events that shape our great game.
I think we got to get started.
A little more.
Okay. We are going to start our panel discussion this morning. I want to welcome all of you. I'm happy to host this morning this prestigious panel of successful women golf champions. 4 women who have made it to the pinnacle of women's golf in Michigan and beyond. They are Christine Meyer. Christine was a star player for MSU and is now playing in the Symetra Tour. She is a 2-time Michigan Women's Amateur Golf Champion, both in 2011 and 2013. Allison Greer is our newest Michigan Women's Amateur Golf Champion. She won in 2015. Her hometown is Brighton, and she is a junior in high school. She's a junior in high school, but she's homeschooled. Darcy Starker. Many of you know Darcy. Darcy is a science teacher at Davison Schools for 14 years. She's been there teaching as well as coaching both boys and girls teams for just as many seasons. In 2012, she was voted the Michigan Golf Coach Association's Division I Coach of the Year. She played collegiate golf at Oakland University and has won 7 City of Flint championships. She was an observer and eccentric champion and a 3-time Michigan Women's Golf Association state champion, both in 2015, 2012, and 2010. And she was runner-up at the National Chrysler Club Championship and a club champion at Davison Country Club. Shelley Weiss. Shelley is a member of EWGA, which is the Executive Women's Golf Association, and MWGA, Michigan Women's Golf Association, and has won the EWGA Metro Detroit Chapter Championship, multiple EWGA's net winner in the championship flight. All of this while working full-time as a certified physical therapist. We are today going to ask them to tell you a bit about how they got started in the game and to share some experience, some playing experiences, and how they play and grew in the game competitively. The Michigan Women's Amateur Golf Championship is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. And each of you, I believe, on your seat has a copy of the particulars about that event, which is going to be held August 8th. And we are having a scramble as well as a dinner honoring the 100th year anniversary. This event is being run and hosted by and sponsored by GAM and Michigan Women's Golf Association. It's amazing that we've had 100 years of women competing on the golf course in this state, in our state. Here today to give us some history of the background on this prestigious championship is Susan Bairley. Many of you know Susan, probably can't see her behind this. Susan is a Golf Writers Association of America golf and travel writer. She writes for the Michigan Golfer and A Position. She was Michigan's first professional woman golf writer and Michigan's first woman to be accepted into the Golf Writers Hall of Fame. She has written for the Michigan Golfer and various golf publications since 1988. She chaired the first Michigan Women's Golf Summit, and she has provided communication support to the Michigan PGA for nearly 3 years. She co-founded an early women's golf website called the Women's Golf Network, and Susan with her husband started the Shirley Spork Women's Golf Endowment at Eastern Michigan University. She has a bachelor's degree in journalism from the University of Michigan and a master's degree in public administration from EMU. She also works in the auto industry as a communications and public relations manager and a consultant. And she's currently serving as on the board of the Society of Automotive Analysis. And I'm going to turn it over to Susan to give a little bit of information and background on the Michigan Women's Golf Championship, Amateur Golf Championship.
Thank you, Joan. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm going to try to put 100 years of history. So what I'm going to do is just give you a little bit of background and share some stories with you. And I am working on a little more definitive piece about the history, along with Greg Johnson, who's going to be doing a historical piece as well. The tournament actually got started in 1914. And the beginnings of the tournament are a little bit hard to define. There isn't a whole lot of history back then, except that Miss John W. Case, and that's another interesting part about the tournament, is for many years, up into the 1960s, the women who won the tournament carried their husbands' names. So to this day, I do not know what Miss John W. Case's first name is, and part of my quest this year is to find out what her first name is. None of the history tells you what that is. But she was invited by the Country Club of Detroit's secretary, who was a male, to play in the first amateur championship. She was the winner of the first one in 1914. And for the next 5 years, things were a little sketchy. You know, there was no formal organization. The tournament continued. Women won the tournament every year, and there is a history of who won. But it wasn't until Mrs. Charles Booth, whose name is Adeline, actually started to get the ship straight, and she started with a working constitution. She added some bylaws. She was technically, I think, the first official president. So once she got things going, she also worked to finance the tournament, and she asked for clubs to pay dues in order to put on the tournament every year. So once that started, she really saw, it really started the legacy of this tournament. Two women that were really important in this tournament in the 1920s were Dorothy Higbee and Violet Hanley. They were, of course, also known by their husbands' first names, and it was Mrs. Stewart Hanley and I believe it was Mrs. Harley Higbee. They tossed the championship back and forth for almost a decade. They were tremendous golfers. Dorothy was a member of Country Club of Detroit. Violet was a member of Oakland Hills. And not only were these women important in Detroit, but they brought Detroit to national and international prominence. What they did is, in 1931, Violet Hanley was the first woman to manage an international women's golf team to play in England. And she actually took the team over to England, managed the team, and played in the first international women's matches ever. The next year, in 1932, Dorothy Higbee became part of the first Curtis Cup team, and she again crossed the pond and was part of that team. So both of those women had prominence at the USGA level. They had prominence internationally, and they really put Michigan golf for women on the map. The tournament really wasn't an open tournament for many years. The only people who could play in the tournament were private club members for the longest time. In 1936, there were two organizations, one which represented the public players and one which represented the private clubs and the tournament. And in order to preserve the name of the organization sponsoring the tournament, the president negotiated with the public links people to change their name, and they became the Detroit Metropolitan Women's Golf Association. Once they did that, as part of the negotiation, she must have been a Trumpite dealer back then, because what she did is she, in securing the name, also guaranteed that the public links, the Metropolitan president could play in the tournament as well as their top 5 golfers. So that was the first time that the tournament was open to public players. This was the case for many, many years, and actually in the 1990s, it finally opened to dues-paying clubs so that public players could, if they were part of a dues-paying club, participate in the amateur. And it wasn't until 1995 that it actually truly became an open tournament. So thankfully, that is the case. And the first public links player, was Mrs. Goddard. I can't remember what her first name was. In 1959 to actually win the title from a public course. The tournament has had many, many champions, and I'm just going to mention a few names here, and I'm going to move it along because I don't have much time. But Dorothy Higbee won the championship 5 times. Patty Boyce won the championship 7 times. Whiffy Smith was the 1955 state champion. and she is also the youngest one to have won. She was 18 to date at that time. Sally Sessions won in 1946. These are also people who are in the Michigan Golf Hall of Fame. Shirley Spork, who is co-founder of the LPGA, won in 1949, and she went on to co-found the LPGA the following year. So when you think about the importance of women's golf and the amateur, prior to 1950, there was no other place to play but the amateur circuit, which makes this tournament all the more important, and all the more important that you all have a part in its legacy. So I'm going to stop right there. I could go on and on, but it has clearly been a place that has developed a lot of professional golfers and continues to do so.
Thanks very much. I was just reading the trophy here, and up until 1941, all of the winners are listed as Mrs. Harry something or Mrs. John something. They are not started to be mentioned by their first names until 1942. I thought that was, yeah, thought it was interesting. We're going to ask each of our panelists to give an answer, or I'm going to pose a question and ask each of you to comment. So if you'll grab, I'll start out with you, Darcy, about, I think everybody is interested in how you got started in the game. And if you could just give us a few minutes, each one of you go down the line and give us a few minutes.
My dad was a scratch golfer, and he would take me out on the golf course with him every vacation. We'd go to a resort, and at night when he was done golfing, he'd come and get us kids and take us out on the golf course. And then he signed me up for Flint Junior Golf, which I believe is one of the oldest junior golf programs in the nation, and I've been playing ever since.
Good morning. Thanks for having us. We appreciate the time. I started playing golf. My husband played golf. He'd go out 4 hours a week, and was playing golf. And I thought, I was a competitive tennis player, and I thought, well, it'd be easier for me to try and play golf than for him to try and play tennis. So I started playing golf and realized that when you go and travel and play golf, the scenery is much more beautiful on a golf course than it is on a tennis court. So I decided that it's something that we could do. And then one day he just said to me, you know what, I think you could be good at this game. So I just started playing.
Hi. So I kind of started playing golf when I was 7 or 8. My dad played, and he thought it would be a really cool idea to kind of get our whole family involved. And I ended up having a sister that played as well. She played in a lot of the GAM events. And when we were young, it just started off as it was something I could beat my sister at, and I thought it was cool. So as that carried on, we started playing in tournaments together, and we both just kind of fell in love with it.
Yeah, I started playing when I was about 3. My dad would take my 2 sisters and I out to the course, and it was just something really fun that my family and I could do together. And we joined Oak Point Country Club, and I started taking lessons and really developed a love for the game. And I started with their junior program and got my first experience with competing there. And so I started playing for the state with Meyer Junior Tour, and with GAM also, and which was a great experience. So I started playing regionally with Golf Week Junior Tour, and from there I started competing nationally with the American Junior Golf Association. So.
Thanks, ladies. It's kind of interesting because you talk about competitive golf, and a lot of women, I think, get a little bit intimidated by the concept of competitive golf. A lot of women play recreationally, but I guess I'm curious to know what was your experience and that got you sort of hooked on playing golf competitively, and then also entering some of the championship events.
When I was a freshman in high school, my parents thought I was going to play softball, and I shocked them when I said, I want to play golf. And then for the regional tournament, my coach had me play off against a senior to get the final position on our team, and I got it. And I got to go to regionals and play in regionals, and we missed going to states by 1 stroke that year. And then the following year, we went to states and finished 6th, and I said, wow, this is getting exciting. And then the next 2 years, we won the state championship. So that's really, that high school golf is what really kicked it in for me.
I I enjoy competition. I'm pretty much competitive at anything I do. Because I played competitive tennis, when I started playing golf, there were people better than me. Darcy happens to be one of those people. So I decided that I wanted to try and get better however I could. I started out, my first round of 18 holes, I believe I shot 142. So how do you get competitive when that's what your score is? Because the people that you want to play against are shooting, these girls are shooting in their 70s, and how do I do that? So I just decided that it might be worthwhile just to maybe try and practice. My husband pretty much taught me everything I know, and then I've taken a couple lessons here and there, but I just practiced. And I kind of liked the winning and getting recognized for my achievements. And so I just kept going, and I got better and better and better. And, you know, Darcy and I could have a good game. These chicks would slaughter me. But it's still fun, and I enjoy it. And I've met incredible people through the game of golf. I have amazing, amazing friends because of entering these tournaments at whatever level you're at. You can be competitive if you have a handicap of 40. It doesn't matter. You can still be competitive. So if you like that in your job and you like that in your family, then, you know, competition in the game of golf is very similar. It's similar to whatever it is that you do. So I certainly encourage that.
It kind of started for me, I mean, like I said, I just really loved to go out and play against my sister, my older sister. I just really wanted to beat her so badly. And we just had this ongoing competition as we grew up. And when our parents eventually put us into tournaments when we were around 10, we were in different age groups. So I couldn't play against her, and I was disappointed in that. And there were no other girls in my age group, which, happily to say now, that has changed significantly, and there's a lot of younger girls signing up for tournaments all the time. But I had to play against the boys, and that's what really kind of got me going, is I got to beat up on the boys a lot. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, for me, definitely the experiences that I get is what made me want to keep going, and just all the places that I saw, the people that I met, and I mean everything with golf is experience, and the hard work, you know, that you put into it. I really love the outcome, and just being able to be here, and so many windows that have been open for me, and I'm really just blessed, and everything. I've just enjoyed every process of it.
Thank you. I'm wondering if you might want to share, or if you can share with us, some of your experiences in actual competitions in the championships that you played in. Any humorous, anecdotal experiences that you might want to share with the group?
So as I said, and as Joan said, I'm a member of the EWGA, Executive Women's Golf Association, and I've been a member since 1995, maybe. 21 or 22 of the 25 years EWGA has been around. As Joan said, that in 2005 I won the net championship, and here's a funny story about that. I was up at Crystal Mountain. They hosted the national championship on the driving range, and I was hitting balls, and there's a lady next to me who was hitting balls, and man, could she crush that ball. I had no idea who she was. I introduced myself. We ended up having dinner that night because there were no other ladies around. I guess everybody else was coming up the next day, so we had dinner, and I said, wouldn't it be fun if we could play in the last group on the final day of the tournament? And sure enough, somehow, I ended up in the final group on the last day of the tournament. I had no idea who she was. She was a phenomenal golfer and ended up winning multiple EWGA championships. But I thought it was really funny how just by chatting and meeting somebody, how that relationship and that friendship could grow, and it's still very, very formative in my life right now. But how that was kind of a funny story, how you just say something just off the cuff and it kind of ended up happening. Another really quick story was I was playing in an outing, and you know how they have that fifth player to play on the par 3 to help your shot, get you closest to the pin for your team? Janina Jacobs, many of you know Janina Jacobs. She was that fifth player, so I hit a golf shot. It was a par 3, and she said, wow, that's a really good shot. Where do you play? And I said, I don't really play. She goes, no, what league do you play in? And I said, I really don't know. I don't play in a league. I'm not good enough. She goes, oh, yes, you are. And that's how I got involved in EWGA. She gave me the name of the membership director for EWGA. And what ended up happening was, over the years, this was 21 or 22 years ago, last year in the senior women's amateur match play event, I actually beat Janina Jacobs in my match.
I think one of my fondest memories of playing in the Michigan Amateur was the year that I came runner-up in 2010. I came runner-up to my eventual teammate at Michigan State. And in my quarterfinal match, that was a 36-hole day. I'd won my previous match, and my coach for Michigan State, I just committed to Michigan State to play. She had lost and was just kind of hanging around the parking lot, and I thought, hey coach, do you want a caddy for me in my next match? Not knowing if I thought that was a good idea or not, just kind of came out of my mouth, and she said sure. And I immediately got extremely nervous, and I ended up winning the match 6-5, which was good, and I played very well, which was really good. But she remembers reading a putt for me, and I saw it completely opposite of what she did. And I said, okay, coach, yeah, I'll play it your way. And I did it my way, and it went in. And she just thought that was really funny. So that was just kind of one of my favorite memories of her and I at the tournament.
I mean, I've made so many amazing memories but with this tournament, my first.
For the year, but I remember the feeling, and I think that's the most important thing. When I was at Oakland University playing golf, my second year, I had an incredible Michigan women's amateur champion as my coach, Mary Jane Anderson. And I remember her, when we first met, saying, man, you hit the ball a long way, but you're never going to beat me. And I went, what? And there, again, that competitiveness kicked in, and I remember being at one of the tournaments and actually beating her, and I'm like, finally. And it wasn't for another 4 years. It took me 4 years to get to the level that I needed to get to beat her, and it was like the best thing in the world.
Thanks very much, ladies. We're sort of running out of time here, but I did want to give a shout out to GAM, who is one of the sponsors of this panel, and they are also the sponsor of the event, the 100th Michigan Women Amateur Championship at Spring Meadow Country Club on August 8th. It's going to be a scramble. The celebration is going to be, the 100th celebration is going to be a scramble for anybody can play, and then you'll also have the dinner celebration as well. And this will be just prior to the actual championship that will happen the next day at Spring Lake. The other shout out I want to give is to Executive Women's Golf Association, Metro Detroit. They are celebrating their 25th anniversary this year. They have a booth here, so please feel free to go visit them. The Michigan Women's Golf Association also has a booth here, but we are celebrating our 30th anniversary at Red Run Country Club in in May. So they are, we've got many organizations, women's golf organizations that have a lot of history in this state. And we hope this has been informative. And we thank you all, our champions, for participating. Thank you.